This episode of Man of Prestige, you do not appreciate disrespect of any type. So that's another BS. It's not more so because she's BSing, okay? It's not about Michelle Obama saying the wrong thing. That's not what I mean. What I mean is that make sure you're applying context when you run with quotes and all this kind of one-liner quotes that really doesn't show you the full picture of what's going on with any one of us at any point in time, right? So it's very, very important to make sure you keep things in context. And number one, polarity, attention. Polarity equals to attention, equals to profit. What do I mean by that? You have to stand on something, especially as a man in this society. You have to believe in something. You have to stand for something, I mean to say. Because if you don't stand for something, then you can fall for anything, right? And especially when we bring it down to business, I'm guilty. All right, Men of Prestige, welcome back. So, best revenge is success. I'm going to give you 3 reasons why that's complete BS. 3 reasons why that's complete BS. I get it. I know where they're coming from when they say best revenge is success. And I'm going to give you, see, in life there are nuances. That's just the bottom line. There are all kind of gray areas. If it was as simple as right, wrong, black, white, if it was that simple, life would be boring as it is, right? So actually what makes it interesting, what makes life interesting is the fact that we are able to have a chase. We have a pursuit of happiness, of success, and all those different things. So we come up with all kind of gimmicky different terminologies, phrases, idioms, proverbs to make life feel better. And I understand it, and we need a lot of those in a lot of ways. We need those things. But with that being said, I always like to add some context to things so that we're not just moving around blindly because somebody said one phrase like best revenge is success. There are limitations to that. You want to make sure that you shine your eyes. You want to make sure that you're paying attention to the nuances, and that's why I wanted to share this with you. It's a very common saying, and there's a lot of truth to it. After all, what could be more satisfying, than to make sure that you achieve success regardless of somebody wronging you, right? So I get that. But let's talk about these 3 reasons. Number 3, petty, short-term versus long-term truth. So in the long term, it is actually true. Best revenge is success, okay? But in the short term, there are times that you don't want to be a doormat. You don't want to be a victim, at least in your head, right? You need all your confidence in order to move in the direction you want to move, in order to move up, in order to be able to approach your activities, approach the things you want to do. In order to be able to approach those things accurately, you need what I would consider, you need your confidence level, right? And sometimes when you feel beat down, or you feel like you're the victim, or you feel like somebody has really wronged you, in the short term you're not able to move forward because that basically occupies your head, and that's all you can think about, right? So for this reason, I want to tell you, in the short term, sometimes you just want to make it known that you don't appreciate a person that has wronged you. Don't just sit down there and just be looking and be getting, especially when we're talking about emotional issues or somebody's verbal abuse or anything like that. You don't want to sit there and just be receiving it, because that will affect your confidence. Your confidence will affect how you approach your endeavors in life. All right. Number 2, when Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high. Sometimes you need to be low to be able to go high, okay? Sometimes you need to go bring yourself down to someone's level in order for them to understand that they're not allowed to disrespect you, right? And again, in the short term only, okay? You don't want to dwell in that area for too long, right? You don't want to be operating in a low vibration environment for too long, because again, now you're going to effectively destroy potentially your future in the long term, because some people are just designed to be in that kind of low vibration area, and you don't want, you may not be designed for that, but you can now effectively bring yourself to that level, and then you dwell in that low level for way too long, right? But like I said, as long as you know how to separate the short term from the long term, a lot of time you're able to make the right decisions. So in the short term, it's okay to go low so that you can actually see where you're going when it comes to going high, right? But if you're trying to just act like you're high all the time, you could easily be treading in the borderline of arrogance. But internally, you felt you feel what you feel, right? You know that you don't feel really good about somebody wronging you, and then especially when they continue to do it, right? In the short term, you definitely want to make it known that you do not appreciate disrespect of any type. So that's another BS. It's not more so because she's BSing, okay? It's not about Michelle Obama saying the wrong thing. That's not what I mean. What I mean is that make sure you're applying context when you run with quotes and all this kind of one-liner quotes that really doesn't show you the full picture of what's going on with any one of us at any point in time, right? So it's very, very important to make sure you keep things in context. And number one, polarity, attention. Polarity equals to attention equals to profit. What do I mean by that? You have to stand on something, especially as a man in this society. You have to believe in something. You have to stand for something, I mean to say. Because if you don't stand for something, then you can fall for anything, right? And especially when we bring it down to business, I'm guilty of this. I tend to kind of tread in between and try to understand everybody. But this is a failing strategy in a lot of ways, right? Because again, if people don't know what you stand for, it's kind of harder for them to respect you, right? Even if you're on the extreme opposite end of what they stand for, a lot of times it put them in a position where they give you attention because you're on the polar opposite direction of where they stand, right? But if you're in between, that's kind of boring, right? The same thing will transpire in romantic relationships. If a woman doesn't know where you stand, it's kind of hard for her to respect you, right? But if she knows where you stand, even if that means from an ideological standpoint she disagrees with you, a lot of times that's exactly what turns her on. A lot of times, in a lot of ways, that's exactly what turns her on. And when it comes to business, you want to make sure you have that kind of polarity, like sometimes extreme polarity, especially if especially more importantly when it's your true self. You want to make sure you express that, because a lot of time that's how people give you the respect that you deserve. All right. So those are the three reasons right there where I would tell you revenge is not always success is not always the best revenge. In the long term, absolutely. In the short term, you got to call people out for their bullshit sometimes. And now in this moment, I am not talking about calling women out for their bullshit. Again, in the short term, this may work against you, right? So you don't want to be you want to be careful when you're saying you're holding women accountable. A lot of times it's yourself that you need to hold accountable for attracting such situations. All right, man of prestige.